Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this most glorious ReTFOS, where I'm going to take Billy Bob's Space Trucker and update it to modern audio standards. Now, you may be wondering why this is on the main channel. It's because it's a ReTFOS, and this was originally on the main channel, so I think it is poetic. Anyway, this is Billy Bob Space Trucker, written by RegalLegalEagle. P.S. Don't forget to head over and give it a very big update. Anyways, on to the story. Billy Bob gave a grunt as he left the range of the last human FTL music station in his sector. Reaching out, he stabbed the entertainment console with a finger to turn off that damned Xeno shit before it gave him a headache. None of that click-clack bullcrap for him hurt his ears. Thinking it over, he turned his entertainment console over to his private collection. Music stuff. Round, round, I get around. He grinned as the Beach Boys filled his cockpit. Real human music is what this was. Back when times were simple, and they only had to worry about nukes and commies. He had a whole collection of pre-contact music that he liked to play on his long-haul routes. Most Xenos hauled cargo in massive ships with crews of around 50. They needed the companionship and security of traveling in bigger groups. Plus, they needed someone to grow food, tend to the sick, and sing songs, all that sort of thing. They tended to freak out if they didn't have someone to fill each job position. But humans, well, humans didn't mind strapping themselves to a giant rocket and firing off with the more mid-sized cargo bay all on their own. Being alone didn't scare humans as much as it did all those Xenos. Plus, there was damn good money being the only one to take the extra long routes out of the isolated colonies that didn't need a whole atlas worth of cargo. The Xenos had some sort of fancy title for this sort of position, but Billy Bob knew just what he was. All humans called this sort of job the same thing. It was a job as old as internal combustion, just now in space. He was Billy Bob, Space Trucker. Billy Bob was good at his job. He'd taken it up after a tour of service in the Navy as a bomber. Knowing how Xenos hated being isolated, humans had realized they didn't scan for small ships, and the concept of long-range fighter bombers with single pilots was completely foreign to them. Taking advantage of this, humanity created whole squadrons of the things to terrorize core systems while their fleet or capital ships mostly fought on the defensive in their own territory. This meant humans were hard to fight on traditional Xeno terms. Instead of big capital ship battles to decide the fate of wars, they just sat around and defended their outer colonies, while those hard-to-detect squadrons of fighter bombers devastated morale back home. Of course, humans could trounce most militaries once they landed anyway. A nice side effect from evolving on a high-gravity death world meant most Xenos didn't stand a chance against them face-to-face. But that was mostly frowned upon by the Galactic Peace Corps. They wanted the border conflicts to take place in space and involve as little actual invasion as possible, and humanity was trying to join peacefully, rather than forcefully. Most people didn't want humans to be viewed as big mean bullies, but Billy Bob didn't mind being a bully now and then. Wars had died down since humanity had established their borders, and the Navy didn't need those fighter bombers as much as patrol craft, so Billy Bob had taken his severance pay with an honorable discharge and bought himself a Longhorn, made back home on terra fucking firma. Then he signed up with a freight line and got trucking. In space, his only companion was the long space lanes ahead, fellow space truckers on FTL prox bands, and of course, Mittens. Mittens was a Martian marauder genetically engineered to handle pests on the first off-world colony. He was as big as an old Earth bobcat. His fur was as dusty red and bluish stripes, but white paws, hence the name. He was scarred all over from his many battles on the streets of Mars as a youth before Shelter had found him. Billy Bob had picked him up from the shelter because he liked the look of the cat, and he knew that an omnivore keeping a carnivore as a pet scared the crap out of most Xenos. Billy Bob liked dogs too, but they needed more space than he had in his Longhorn, and they'd yet to breed a dog that could learn to do its business in a space toilet and flush after. Currently, he had a cargo bay full of standard agri-colony supplies and 3 space days to get there. He knew they weren't space days, but he hated the stupid Xeno terms for this kind of crap. He wasn't some Diplo-Corps nerd. He was a space trucker. He just added space in front of the traditional human terms, and that was good enough for him. Soon enough, though, his gut began to rumble, and he sighed. I could use a quick bite. How about you, Mittens? The cat was sleeping in the co-pilot chair and yawned, but didn't contribute to the conversation. Ah, well, I'm going to stretch my legs, you lazy furball. The ship shuddered as he began to peel off from the main FTL lane and spin down his engines as he moved out of the FTL lane. Soon he had pulled up to the refueling station. His longhorn dwarfed the other massive cargo ships in Atlas. Paying the minor docking fee, he unfastened his harness and hauled his growing beer gut out of the pilot's chair. He ran a hand over his belly for a moment as he noted he needed to exercise more regularly now that he wasn't on a military diet. Shrugging it off, he walked back through the small cabin of his ship and stepped into the airlock. He ached for a smoke, but knew the rules against air toxins were strictly enforced. Pathetic Xenos couldn't handle a little tobacco smoke. But he shrugged it off and waited for the airlock to cycle. He was greeted with a stale canned air that smelled of dirty Xenos and FTL fuel as he began the walk along the gantry towards the station central. His boots, jeans, belt buckle, and plaid shirt were all essentially against the standard Xenos norms of clothing. Everything preferred pressure suits or multi-function harnesses. Well, that wasn't his style. So he adjusted his hat with the human flag next to the good old stars and stripes on it and walked on. Most stations like this had the same layout. They consisted of a central hub with arms for cargo haulers to dock at, and restaurants and other entertainment centers for lonely cargo crew to have some fun at. He had to watch his step in the lowered gravity unless he wanted to go jumping over everyone's head and freak everyone out. So he had to take a slow, long stride gait, noting the places with sealed environments for various atmospheric needs. He found a diner that looked empty enough. He groaned at the sight of the chairs, though. They were all those ergonomic Xeno styles. He just wanted a place for his butt and a back to lean against, damn it. He looked over the options of furniture and approached the counter. Picking one that looked like you, he tried to sit on it sideways first, but it was too wide to comfortably straddle. Then, when he tried to sit in it with the arms of the U against his arms, he found it too tight. While he tried this, the guy behind the counter, some sort of six-armed space frog, just waited and watched. Do you have like a crate or something? The creature looked a bit confused. A crate of what? Just like a crate. Got some crates of cans in the back. Billy Bob got up, walked past the space frog and into the kitchen, where some more surprised-looking space frogs were standing around. Hey, wait. Just going to be a minute. He found one of the shiny metal boxes and lifted it up, walking back out with it as the space frog's eyes got even wider. Then he set it down next to the counter and sat on it. Do you know how heavy that thing is? High-gravity home planet. Oh, no wonder you're so ugly. You're not pretty yourself, fella. I've got 6 wives, pal. I'm gorgeous. Billy Bob eyed the creature in front of him and figured there was no accounting for taste. Well, fine. Do you have meat? The creature shuddered for a moment. 3 bulbous sacs along the blue neck, expanding for a moment. A carnivore, huh? Omnivore, thank you very much. Do you have anything resembling bacon and eggs? He waited for the creature's implants to translate the term before he saw the blue sacs turn a little green. That's disgustingly barbaric. Billy Bob let out a sigh. How about protein mush and space pancakes? It had taken Billy Bob ages to tweak his translator to understand custom inputs just the way he liked. Protein mush would translate, but space pancakes wouldn't normally. But he'd been damned if he'd bothered to remember the Xeno term for those green flapjack-type things. Yes, that we have. And butter? It was a long shot. Even the translator struggled to convey the term. Spreadable animal fat? You know what? Never mind. How about space maple syrup? Yes, we have sugar, Tom. Close enough. Coffee? A blank face with a response. Crap, I mean space coffee. Dear religious figure, you'd want to consume some of that stuff in liquid form. Yes. Is that not normal? No. Combat stimulants are not normal to consume as a drink. Crap. Well, I guess this place hasn't had a visit from the Diplo Corps yet, then. Do you guys have anything with caffeine in it? The creature looked at him warily. We keep some space tea for visiting space foxes. He meant the Tatari, but Billy Bob thought they looked like space foxes, and, as such, made each translator use the term. Oh, good. Well, bring me some boiling water and 3 bags of that, and then another full glass of ice about this big. He held up his hands to show. Now you coming out of a hibernation cycle? That's an absurd amount of liquid. We don't hibernate. We're just dense. The frog muttered something about accuracy of the statement, then spoke up. Look, do you have the currency to pay for this? Yeah. He pulled a bill out of his pocket and slapped it on the table. What's that? Billy Bob looked down at the First World President Schwarzenegger's face. Sorry, wrong currency. He tucked the bill back into a pocket and instead pulled out a small black box. Galactic trade cubes work here, right? They work everywhere. So I hear. The frog touched the box to let it connect with the implant, and after a soft beep from the machine, set about making Billy Bob his food. Once the frog carefully brought over the pot of boiling water, while using a thermal glove, Billy Bob quickly dumped the 3 bags of weak-ass space tea into it and began to brew something close to green tea. Protein mush and space pancakes weren't all that bad. In reality, protein mush was very similar to scrambled eggs, just in need of a load of salt and pepper, which no one kept in large quantities. Soon enough, the frog came back with a plate of protein mush and space pancakes. Green flapjacks covered in that caramel-like sugar tar, which wasn't really a bad name, but he still preferred space maple syrup. He reached down to the holster in his belt, pulling free a bottle of real Mexican pepper sauce and poured some on the mush. When the frog squinted and leaned in, he held up his hand. Whoa there, pal. The stuff has capsaicin in it. The frog backed up, looking horrified. You consume chemical weapons? Just for flavor. The frog decided to move down the counter and clean a section of it far away from Billy Bob. He ate in peace, pouring some of the brewed tea into a glass of ice to cool it down and drink it as iced tea. The place was quiet, which suited him just fine. But soon there was another guest. Billy Bob looked over as it slipped easily into one of the ergonomic Xeno chairs. It was fairly tall, about a half foot over his head. He refused to use magic, even in space. Fairly slim, but not outrageously so. He was wearing some sort of black cloak and what looked like a survival suit beneath it. It was a bipedal humanoid, but sported 4 long arms instead of 2. Its face was shrouded in the hood of the cloak, all mysterious-like. The frog seemed extra cautious with this visitor, perhaps because 2 unusual clients at once didn't bode well to him. They had a quiet conversation, ending with the frog looking down the way at Billy Bob. The figure waited for the frog to bring it a small glass of fruit drink, make that space fruit drink, and then rose from the seat, seeming to drift rather than walk towards Billy Bob. He took a seat next to him as he ate. You come from a death world? The voice purred out, all light and airy. He liked her already. Of course, he couldn't be sure it was a female, but the voice and figure seemed feminine to him, so why not? Sure do. What classification? I'm told the galactic standards are Grade 5 water, oxygen standard, super heavy gravity, and a Class 8 hostility. The figure leaned back at that. Class 8 hostility and super heavy? Yep. He took a bite of his eggs bush. What rank are you on your ship? That made him curious. Captain? No support crew with you? No support crew. I own, fly, and fix the ship on my own. That usually surprised most Xenos, and this one seemed a little surprised as well, since it was quiet. You're a space trucker. A what? I don't like the galactic term. That's what my people call it. My whole cargo around space for contracts. On your own? I have a pet. Oh. Yep. He figured she was wondering what it was, but he decided that it was best not to scare her. Are you taking on new cargo? In the middle of a contract, full cargo, hold, I'm afraid. What about passengers? I've got a 2-person cabin, so no. I don't have the facilities to transport 20 or 30 of your kind. I'm alone. That actually caught him by surprise. Almost all civilized spacefaring species had been prey on their home planets. They needed company and familiar beings nearby, or they'd start to freak out. That was the very reason humans developed their fighter-bomber strategy. From what they'd seen, the concept of frontiersmen and wandering explorers and space truckers was foreign to them. Solitude terrified them and then generally drove them insane. Looks like the diplomatic corps had missed a species. What gravity are you okay with?
Galactic standard.
Sleep cycles? Eating?
3 space hours of sleep for 6 space hours active. Night standard omnivore.
Catnaps and snacks, huh?
I don't know what that means.
Never mind. Where do you need to go and when?
I need to reach Galactic Capital Planet before the end of the space month.
That's a hell of a way to go. My species isn't even a member species yet. I'm not sure they'd let me go that far.
I have diplomatic connections.
Well, I don't know. It seems like more effort than it's worth.
The figure looked ready to go on when he heard the frog gasp as some more figures entered the room.
Billy Bob looked over and arched a brow. These he was going to call giant, horrible space crab bugs. They had 6 lower legs, 2 upper arms, and 2 twitching mandibles along a pointed 4-eyed face with antennae. It was covered in some sort of jagged purple-black exoskeleton and looked to be dripping space goo. Each had some sort of large, high-powered-looking weapon in their claw-like upper arms and a targeting computer over the 2 of their eyes. Humans, so far, were unique in the universe for their ability to compute depth and speed in their heads. Something as simple as playing catch was nearly impossible for species without computer assistance. The Spectre lady moved behind him, and he realized that he was being dragged into something he didn't understand. And he didn't like that. You! They skidded forward and fanned out. 6 of them took up an area across the diner, between him and the door. When the creature spoke, the mandibles had to part from the face to expose some flesh beneath. Billy Bob froze as he saw a hole the creature was speaking out of. It looked like an arsehole. He worked hard to keep his face straight and not burst out laughing as he quickly set his translator to refer to these creatures by some custom inputs.
Puny, ugly creature.
I am Captain Arsehole of the Arsehole Empire.
You must tread carefully and face the wrath of the Arsefaces. This one behind you is our mortal enemy. You, my translator is telling me that you are showing mirth and amusement.
The creature said the last bit with confusion as Billy Bob was laughing. He jabbed the weapon in his face.
Stop that! You will rue the day you mock
Captain Arseface. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Your translator isn't, set to my species properly. This is fear and terror. Really? It paused, unsure now.
Hand over the diplomat.
Look, I really hate to get dragged into crap I don't understand. My species is very new to the galactic political scene, so I don't see why this is my business anyway. He didn't like these creatures, but getting humanity into a war they didn't know about wouldn't be good for him on a personal level. Then the lady behind him whispered, I'll transfer 10 billion galactic credits to your personal account if you help me. He always wanted to be a hero. Billy Bob yanked the bottle of pepper sauce from his holster, smashed it across Captain Arsehole's face. The creatures were stunned by his speed, and Captain Arsehole began to scream in pain as the hot sauce burned him. Billy Bob took the still boiling pot of water, tossing it at another arseface, smacking it in the face as he leapt forward with all the speed of high-gravity Death Wielder. Grappling one of the creatures past the other 2 screaming arsefaces, he ripped the weapon from its hand, pushing a bunch of buttons before the swarm of little pink bolts slammed into another arseface. Then he smashed the weapon into the torso of the arseface he disarmed, cracking and splintering the exoskeleton as more goo escaped. The last 2 had leveled their weapons and then turned their injured comrade into a massive spatter of bits and pieces. But Billy Bob was already running away, rising up as he ripped a table from the ground and throwing it into the 5th arseface. The 6th was swinging his weapon, waiting for the computer to give him the firing plot, but Billy Bob was too fast. Picking up one of those stupid xeno-ergonomic chairs, he leapt, swinging it overhand and down into Arseface's face. There was a crack and a snap as it slumped to the ground. There were siren sounds in the station as security had obviously detected violence. Cheese it, lady. I ain't going to space jail. What does that mean? Run for it. My ship's this way. He began to take long hops, sailing over the heads of the other startled and frightened creatures, running every which way. He turned to see how long he'd have to wait for her, but to his surprise, the creature had spread her arms wide, the cloak flapping back to reveal a set of feathery wings, with gossamer, dragonfly-like web between her long arms. She was literally flying. Well, shit. This is going to be an interesting haul. So began another chapter in the adventures of Billy Bob, Space Tracker. End of chapter. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters: Bushmaster117, Casper Arnholtz, Dragzoon W.R.E, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, Jon Carrington, and Sevaren Serberous. Thank you very much.